Yeah, there's a slight issue with your docking station.
Yeah, I was originally using it to test missiles, so you might want to change the elevation angle just a wee
Yeah,
bit.
I got it.
And you might want to hold change the hold distance up to like 100 meters, that are just plop down like a an origin
Vertical.
block in somewhere inside your cruiser there, so it grabs it by the button, not the center. All right, I'm gonna plop down some links, and we'll get this going here. Let's see. All right, so hello guys, this is Damadog82. I'm here with some new friends of mine, Samson and Flep. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yes.
Okay.
Hello.
There you go.
So today we're going to be talking about their project, World War Neater, and they got some really cool ships to show off for you guys. So let's just start with some questions that I wrote down for you guys. I believe I gave you a little bit of time to look them over, so you can have some idea what we're talking about here. So just going to bluntly ask you, what is World War Neater?
So basically,
Um,
it's
yeah.
a custom battle.
Mm-hmm.
The way it works is we have two factions at the moment, and it'll be an ongoing series. They conduct military operations like hunting submarines, intercepting convoys, amphibious assaults, air raids on coastal defenses, different kinds of military operations, and we'll have a backstory. And
So it's going
it'll
to
be
be like
these
a
two
series
factions.
of almost like custom campaigns from what you're describing here. Am I hearing this right?
No, not a custom campaign. That's a
Mm-hmm.
single player thing. There'd be a lot of people involved,
Okay.
but it'd be a YouTube series showcasing these battles. Be very visually spectacular. And what sets it apart from regular From the Depths is that we were restricted to World War II technology. So there's
Mm-hmm.
no missile spam, no lasers, no
No light,
energy
no boat, no
shields.
motor car, not a single luxury.
I do what?
It's part of the theme song for Gilligan's Island. I was trying
Okay.
to be funny.
But yeah, just World War II themed From the Depths. You different battles have a story behind.
Okay. So you're just trying to get a little bit of a narrative, like your own kind of custom World War II campaign almost.
Yeah. It will
Okay.
be like
It.
with a progression sort of thing. So the two factions, we will give a map to them so that when they win a battle, they gain ground, expand their territory, and we will set up certain encounters, as we call them.
Mm-hmm.
For example, we talked about one which would be a merchant fleet being protected by mainly destroyers
Mm-hmm.
and then getting attacked by a few submarines. We're not quite sure how we will balance it since balance is still a work in progress in the project so far. But yeah, that's the general idea we have.
Okay. So next question I want to bring up here is, what was your reasoning for making this? I'm wondering if it's related to the World War II campaign being removed from the vanilla game, or was there another source of inspiration for this?
So I love From the Depths, but all the sci-fi stuff really kills it for me, and you
Mm-hmm.
have to use that tech. I don't like fighting against that technology, but I especially don't like using. You really have to play the game. I wanted something different.
Mm-hmm.
About 10 months ago, I was trying to learn to build ships better,
Mm-hmm.
especially more aesthetically. I found Flep on the Discord, and I saw what he was building, and he started helping me with his blueprints, and I watched them fight, and I was, man, this is badass. It's just it's pure metal armor, gun, engine, none of that sci-fi stuff. I killed it for. We got to do series about.
Yeah, I there's always going to be some kind of issue, with the from the depths mechanics. I mean, isn't it kind of strange that we have fuel engines that could work underwater or in space without having to worry about oxygen at all? I think the
Oh
same
yeah.
holds true with the boilers, but yeah, there's a. That's usually an argument I use against people when they say that they want more realism in from the depths.
I mean, we kind of aim to give it more realism. For example, our submarines have restrictions
Mm-hmm.
for the engines that they can use. For example, I can bring in my Gato class submarine, which works by using fuel engines to recharge batteries,
Mm-hmm.
and it can only do so when surfaced. And once the batteries are charged, it will dive and then run off the batteries, just like a real World War II submarine.
And I see you had some dive planes on here too. That's cool. Do you do
Yeah,
some mimic work on them? It looks like it. Yeah.
yeah, they are hydrofoils mimicked over.
Very good.
And I built that like quite a while ago, so I don't remember the specifics. But as far as I know, it works mostly by hydrofoils and then changing the water pump settings
And the
to dive.
torpedo tubes look amazing as well.
Oh, thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's move on to my next question here. What's your theme or setting for this campaign? It sounds like you guys want to go with like World War II technology and no World War II kind of setting. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Kind of like what's the situation with that?
Well, I mean, World War II technology, and then we're somewhere in between placing this in meter
Mm-hmm.
and historical fiction. And the reason we're going that way is because we don't want to be restricted to only building specific replicas from specific countries, following those countries' build styles. So, at the very least, historical fiction, but we're still working on details.
So it's World War II, just very lightly based off of World War II.
Yeah, we mainly
It
used World War II as a way of restriction for the technology we can use,
Mm-hmm.
but the ships can be as creative as you want them to, as
Okay.
long as the tech they use are somewhat something that could have been possible in World War II.
Okay.
We also have two distinct styles. For example, Flep specifically builds replicas. Some of them are changed up a bit. They're not exact replicas. I believe the Tenru torpedo
Yeah,
cruiser actually takes inspiration from two different light cruisers from World War II.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I do a more creative approach where I'm just like, what would have been possible with World War II technology? What could have been?
Mm-hmm.
So we represent two different factions, which hopefully we'll be able to recruit dedicated builders for.
So you're talking like kind of almost like an Axis and Allies thing.
Yeah.
Okay. I remember in your Discord you're still looking for names for that. How's that been going?
It's
We've
been
had a few
slow.
suggestions, but nothing decided yet.
I
It's
know I
hard to
pitched a
decide
few
on
of
a
them.
fictional name.
Yeah. Okay. So, what kind of craft can we expect from this campaign? I mean, I know you guys already showed us off this submarine and light cruiser here, but what else do you plan on adding? I think I might have seen or heard something about possibly having tanks in the future.
Yeah,
Uh,
we have a lot of people interested in tanks right now. We don't have a rule set figured
mhm.
out for that at the moment. We do have someone who's very interested in the project who has extensive knowledge of World War II tanks,
Oh, that's great.
and they've been appointed as the historian for tank guidelines. And
You know,
so we do expect those to come. We've also had a lot of builds submitted for
mhm.
prototypes for testing purposes. So we should see something happen
Okay.
relative to the near future.
Um, just want to throw this out here. I mean, do what you will with it, but I do have a tank steering tutorial. I don't know if you guys would be interested in using or not. It's basically a custom setup that I use to make tanks behave more like tanks, but we could talk about that later off camera if that's something that might interest you.
That's
Yeah, I'm always
good
looking to learn
because
more
I've
stuff.
never built a tank in from the depths. I just couldn't be bothered to learn how to make them look realistic and not bouncing all over the terrain.
Well, I can send you a link to the series. I think you guys might get some good stuff out of it.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, moving on here. You guys have aircraft too, as I recall. a lot. I
I'm
think.
bringing in.
Okay. I believe one of the things that me and Samson talked about is taking aircraft and probably hiding like a custom jet engine in it and still giving it props.
Yep.
Is that still
So
a
this
thing?
one right here, this is the B5 Heron. It was actually based on the Flex that I rebuilt and tuned up, and there is a custom jet engine inside this.
Mm-hmm.
It also has two forward-facing jet thrusters, which are being powered by that jet engine.
Very nice.
The forward accelerator pitch control.
Got some really
So
detailed work in here too. That's amazing.
yeah, and so if you want to build realistic aircraft, realistic at reasonable proportions of scale to real life, you do have to spin clip the hell out of it. And so that's how.
Oh yeah,
it's
no
possible
doubt.
to get that engine.
What can you tell us about this little plane you got here?
So this is a very, very light bomber. It carries a single medium bomb. I think it's only 3 rails.
Yeah, it looks like you mimicked over the bomb here. You did some very detailed work here. It's pretty good.
Now
So, okay.
these very tiny bombs, they add up. It's a
Oh,
top
no doubt.
attack
Yeah.
fragmentation bomb. One good hit can really mess up it. So this tiny 3.5K plane, which is very hard to hit, these can really add up in a battle. And so it's interesting to see how they interact, like the different classes of submarine slaughter ships, aircraft slaughter submarine.
Mm-hmm.
Air to surface combat is kind of a wash. It depends whether or not that specific target is capable. A dedicated anti-air cruiser, for example, with slaughter, or something like a battleship, which is almost exclusively dedicated to fighting ships, is going
Okay.
to really take a beating from planes.
For example, if you take a look at my cruiser over here, it has like basically no anti-aircraft guns. It has two 50 cal machine guns and a cannon at the back. The main guns are mostly dedicated to anti-ship combat. So yeah, aircraft will definitely tear this cruiser apart.
You know, I got a buddy of mine. He was working on a custom campaign, not for like, what was it, about Cold War era stuff. He made a mod for it where he added quite a few different custom weapons for it. I could get you guys a link for that if that's something you might consider using.
We would check it out. We're hesitant to use mods. We want to
Oh,
keep
totally
it
understandable.
Very accessible. And, I know for myself personally, I would never mod from the depths outside of the project. I feel like a lot of players would probably feel the same.
Okay. Yeah, just throwing that out there as an option for you guys. I've actually have the mod installed right now, and it's actually pretty benign. It doesn't really mess with the core gameplay at all. It just kind of sits there. But yeah. Anyway,
I mean, I'll definitely check it out.
okay. I'll send you guys a link to that as well once we're done here. Okay. So we talked about the kind of craft you guys are working on. What else do I got here? What kinds of help are you guys currently looking for this project of yours?
Mostly people that build ships and tanks and anything we can use for testing and to set up encounters.
Okay.
We do have a pretty wide variety of units. For the units that are actually like 100% finished and ready, I believe we're at 14 now, which is a pretty good spread of different kinds of stuff. But we do need a lot more to really get this project.
Yeah, I completely get it, because I think I told you guys about my Warhammer 40k campaign that kind of went to crap because I wasn't getting any help with it. So I can understand what you would be constantly needing people. Oh, wow.
One of the things that... are you looking at the Colibri?
I'm looking at the helicopter. Yeah, I love what you did with the minigun on the nose here. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Oh, that's fine. Actually, I wanted to talk about this. So just to give you an idea of how different two factions, the Colibri is built for my faction. It has kind of a Cold War aesthetic, but it's still strictly World War II technology. So those rockets aren't guided.
Okay.
But just to give you an idea of how different factions, at least aesthetically.
Well, they kind of had helicopters during the time period, but I don't think they were using them in an attack role, were they?
No,
No, they were mostly unarmed.
Yeah.
They didn't start using helicopters in an attack role until
Vietnam, I think.
Yeah, somewhere around 60s, 70s.
Yeah.
But the technology for helicopters, the rockets, so it's not too unreasonable to put the two together.
Oh, of course. All right. So moving on here. So what's the current state of the project right now? I think you guys have just been starting up and just kind of slowly ramping up on everything. Am I correct in saying that?
Well, this project has actually been in development for about 9 months now.
Oh,
and that
okay.
actually makes me hopeful to see something that's been in the works this long. We're still both really passionate.
Yeah, that's
really
great. Had
we have a
Heidsmeister
lot
not
of
sent me a link, I would have never known about you guys.
Well, only recently have we started looking to actually bring people in.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Probably less than a month ago, we started this and started reaching out, getting out. I started posting the workshop, trying to attract people because I realized the only way this project is really going to start getting is if I start getting people in, getting feedback, and that was a big and for Flep as well. He really wanted to see what people thought about the rules we were passing, feedback on the project. I started ramping.
While we're on that topic, would it be okay with your guys' permission to post a link to the your guys' Discord after we're done here?
Oh, of course.
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
be sure to pop that in once we're done with the stream if I remember to do so.
All right.
Dan is like a stone's throw away from 40, so sometimes he forgets things.
Yeah.
All right, so are there any projected completion times as of yet? I mean, if not, that's okay. Just wanted to run that by you guys.
Well, this project's never going to be complete. It's always going to be a work in progress. I think, though, we're going to see our first pretty soon. Because we do have a variety of craft that we can start doing, replicating actual battles.
Mm-hmm.
If not that, something I've been planning, I do need to discuss with Flep first, though, is exhibition. Is basically pit crafting each other and put that on.
Okay.
Generate the project. But we're definitely going to start shooting some kind of showcase.
Are you guys going to be doing this from like a custom map?
We don't have
We'll
a custom
probably
map.
use the NATOM map, but we place the battles that happen in the open ocean as some sort of like to give it a location and give it meaning. We make like a custom map as a like image to show what's really going on in these encounters.
Okay. Well, that's all of my questions for now. Unfortunately, the chat isn't very active right now. I haven't seen any questions pop up in there just yet. So, if you guys want to spawn in a few things and have them fight each other, so people can have a good look at them, feel free to do so.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Flep, why don't you set up 2 teams of your ships? And while you're doing that, I'd actually like to showcase something.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
So, Dama, I've been up all night getting this ready, trying to get this ready for the video. And it's just about done. Haven't posted this to the workshop yet. But this is my latest build. This is the Leonidas class battlefront.
So basically, just kind of like an extremely scaled back. What is it? A scaled back Montana class, miniaturized.
I'm not actually familiar with the Montana class.
Montana class, it had like 6 main guns, 4 and 6 main guns aft, much like in the configuration that you got this ship right here. Except that it's a little bit bigger and it had a lot more secondaries.
So
But that's the first thing I thought of when I saw it.
This is a very small craft at 108 by 15 meters. This is pretty much as small as you can get a effective combat.
You guys put so much detail into these, it's incredible.
Oh,
I mean, the amount of time it took him to put all the detail is incredible.
I'm 8 days in, and I've got more plans.
Just look at the
So
anchor
no-
chains he put.
Oh yeah.
They are all mimicked.
You guys built to like a whole another level that I probably wouldn't want to do. I don't think I have the patience to do this much mimic work, to be honest.
Well, big thing is we want these battles to be visually spectacular. And,
I totally get
posting
it.
them to the workshop and getting them looking this good really helps World War. The vast majority of people who join the score, they've seen it.
Oh, hello. We're already popping off rounds. Just a heads up, in multiplayer you can't despawn enemy crabs, so that's something I just want you guys to be aware of. You can turn off their AI, but that's about it.
Oh, okay. Good to know. Well, I guess I leave it at the light cruiser, which will be very heavily outmatched.
So, while we're on the discussion of your craft here, what's the biggest ones that you will be having planned here?
The largest craft?
Yes. How big do you plan on going with this? I mean, are we talking like battleships or what?
So towards the end of World War II, there were plans which were never completed for super battleship with 500 millimeter cannons that would pass.
Talking like the Japanese A-150 class? Because I think...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that one.
And so that would probably be as big as...
I think Germany had a
like
similar
ships
idea
and
as
big
well.
guns.
Yeah.
So we'll probably see it on his faction. I'm more interested in smaller special.
I really like
so
what you guys did with the smoke here. I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt. I had to say that.
That's
but
something
whenever
that I
you're done-
first learned from the depths Japanese builders. They used steam engines to get that effect. But since they changed the steam engine smoke, I just used smoke generators and turned their alpha way down.
Okay. I think you can control their settings with an ACB as well now.
Yeah. Yeah, I should probably turn them off if the ships become stationary, because otherwise it will look very weird.
Yeah.
So Dama, whenever you're done taking a look at the Leonidas, go ahead and take it out of play and despawn it, flag it.
Which one's the Leonidas? The one that's above the platform?
Yeah.
Okay. We could scrap it, but we can't necessarily despawn it.
Maybe scrap the platform then.
Yeah, we could do that. I can always bring it back if need be, no big deal. Of course, Leonidas might fall on top of it, but we'll see.
It's
No,
gonna
that should be fine.
Okay.
I guess you can turn the guns on and have it shoot the Tenryu as well.
Here's some gorgeous looking gun housings on this frigate, though. Jeez.
Thank you.
She's pretty fast, too. Holy crap.
Flet, what ship are these turret caps based on?
They're based on the USS Cleveland, which is a light cruiser with a bunch of 6-inch guns, if I remember correctly.
I imagine you guys spend a lot of time at Wikipedia looking at boats now.
Oh yeah. I used to play a lot of World of Warships, so I use that as a reference quite a bit for ships.
Oh, we got a few comments in the chat here. Der Heitzmeister just popped in to say hello, and random user Mayo, he says hello too. How you doing, guys? Feel free to ask some questions here. We're kind of just showing off some of the builds here and doing a bit of Q&A, with Flip and Samson here.
But yeah, there are a lot of 3D models available. WebView.
I'm sure that's very useful.
Yeah, we use those as references all.
The thing I do a lot as well is just look at blueprints of the ships because I care a lot about realism, probably way too much. So I make sure that the engine room layouts are somewhat close to what they were in the real ships,
Mm-hmm.
which mostly leads to oversized boiler rooms, which are way too big for from the depths. But I guess I stick with it because most of the times otherwise that space would be empty. Problem with my realistic building style is, as you can see with the Tenryu, it's very fragile.
Oh yeah, that's fairly common with aesthetic builds in From the Depths, unfortunately. We do have a question here from the chat. Random user Mayo asked, "Okay, what is all this about? A custom campaign?" We briefly talked about this earlier, but if you guys want to go ahead and fill that question again, I'm completely fine with it.
So it's not a custom camp, although we could do one at some point. It's actually going to be a YouTube series where we recreate historical battles, probably mostly fictional history battles, using craft restricted to World War II technology. Some of these will be replicas. Some of them will just be things that could have been possible with World War II technology. It'll be things like air assaults on coastal defenses, amphibious assault, intercepting convoys, anti-submarine warfare. Flett mentioned earlier that one of the encounters planned is a merchant fleet being protected by destroyers
Mm-hmm.
fall under an attack by submarine. And these are meant to be visually spectacular battles. Are very rigorous restriction to World War II technology, so no laser, energy shield, that.
Okay. I hope that answers your question, random user Mayo. If you have any more, feel free to bring them up in chat here. I see you guys make a lot of use out of the boiler as well. That's one that I like to use a lot myself. Just looking over the ship that you just spawned in. Like, even the funnels on these look amazing.
Flip, what faction are you spawning yet? I'm gonna give the north.
I spawned it in, I think it's Lightning Hoods. Yeah, I spawned it as Lightning Hoods. But for some reason, it shoots the other way from where the enemy is. So From the Depths is having a bit of a stroke, I think.
That's fairly common.
I thought they fixed that bug.
The more they wander
Well,
away
you
from
know.
each other, it could be an issue. So I just want you guys to be aware of that.
I brought in a Morning Star and a Heron to support the north.
Okay.
So a couple bombers, light, one heavy.
And these are craft that you guys made yourself?
Yep.
Okay.
No.
I thought there might have been like a Morning Star from the Great Talents. I thought you might have been spawning in that when you mentioned it.
Oh, there is a camping craft called but our Morning Star.
While we're on the topic of aircraft, you're gonna be actually fielding a jet engine craft. I mean, I know they were kind of a thing towards the later parts of World War II, but just wondered to what extent you guys gonna have that going on.
Well, all our aircraft, even our propeller craft, actually use jet engine, simply because Deady blades look horrid.
Oh yeah, yeah.
As far as jets that actually look like jets, they did have inward. They looked quite different. They did have jet.
Okay. I think I got another question here. So, random user Mayo is asking, so will these ships actually be a layout in similar ways to the real ones were?
My faction definitely uses very realistic ships, even in layout. And also the armor layout represents the realistic armor.
basically the way I understood it, realistic up to a point where it's not like complete outright plagiarism, but realist. But, yeah. Am I
That's one way of
describing that
putting it.
right?
Flep and I represent two factions. Flep's faction is rigorously real. My faction is less based on replicas, more about what could have been possible.
Mhm.
I don't follow realistic layouts. My engines are probably in very weak places. A replica, but Fleps are very, very following.
Okay.
For example, my ships follow mostly the American all or nothing armor scheme, which basically revolves around armoring the vital parts of a ship, which is the engine room, command rooms, and guns. And anything else basically gets no armor whatsoever. So but you can shove off the bow and the stern of the ship and it will be completely fine.
Okay.
By contrast, mine are floating bricks.
So we're just realistic, at least as far as what's possible and from the depths. Is
Yeah.
It depends on the faction, but
yeah, we were briefly
Flep has
discussing
been-
this earlier, basically talking about what kind of weapons will be allowed in this. I think you guys said it's going to be mostly like APS and dumbfire missiles, from what I understood.
Yeah, so unguided rockets, radar guidance is allowed on bombs.
Oh, I love me some radar-guided bombs. Those things are amazing.
There are dumbfire and guided torpedoes in the process of balancing. Sonar torpedoes will most likely be slower and have a limited warhead count to balance them out.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
There's no sci-fi weapons, so no rail guns, laser, any kind of MP. That didn't come into well after World War II.
And no crams either, if I remember correctly.
That's correct. We decided against cram cam for two reasons. Number one, they're very the calibers are obscene. Biggest caliber gun that I know was from the planned A150, and that was never even built. So cram at a minimum gauge of 1,000 is just the barrels look cartoonic. They would have been too powerful, large ships.
Would like a cram bomber be something more closer to what you're looking for then?
We've been considering AP bomb, but we don't have a working prototype to see how it fits into the balance.
Okay. I
but
believe
cram
on my
bomb,
Discord, Corollas Magnus Rex, he's experimented with that a bit. You might want to talk to him about it, just let you know.
I might do that.
Okay, yeah.
I think he even made a custom mod for being able to do something like that. It's pretty badass.
Oh, is it the APS bomb Rex mod?
That's the one.
I've used that before. Yeah, that's actually pretty badass. But again, we are not so fond of using mods for this encounter.
Yeah, totally get it. Just let you know it's there.
Although we have been experimenting with a mod that just adds an invisible barrel so that like destroyers that are dedicated to anti-aircraft fire won't need extremely long noodle barrels to get up to 1,000 meters per second shells.
Okay. So, what's the biggest ship that you guys currently have?
Oh, that's my work in progress Arkansas battleship. I can spawn it in.
That's like a what? I guess super dreadnought, or am I thinking of something else?
Yeah. There's just a slight issue right now, and that is I'm not where you are right now. Can you spawn in the platform again?
Sure.
Because I found out why the ships were derping up so much. They were all trying to shoot the multiplayer starter raft.
Okay. Make sure you got that damn thing turned off so it don't fly away on us. I got some more questions here for you guys. Some stuff about crams. Random user Mayo, he was suggesting using them as depth charges.
Yeah, that's
The
something I
altitude
thought about
fuses,
as well, because missiles, the altitude fuses don't work, so cramps would
no.
look a lot more realistic.
You would
Okay.
also get a lot more range because ejector fired magnetic motors.
Yeah, magnets
I think
that
it's
that could be potentially dangerous because they might come back and try to start chasing you down. So yeah.
and that's a problem we've had for ejector fired mortars. You get very little range out of it. So with the range on magnet, we have actually had destroyers get hit by their own depth charge. Because you
Okay.
have to get so close. It's also a liability to
Yeah,
the destroyer itself.
it's
So,
it always came across me that it'd be like really really hard to try to replicate um, actual depth charges and from this.
If you have a look at the destroyer I just spawned in,
Mm-hmm.
basically the way I do it is I spin clip a whole bunch of missiles in the same spot, so that when there is a submarine, it drops them staggered, so it looks more realistic to the way a destroyer would throw them out at the back like a real one.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, the damage is laughable. Like medium missiles that small with a magnet don't sink a submarine.
Mm-hmm.
So submarines will happily torpedo the destroyer and everything will be for nothing.
Got a few more questions for you guys here. They're asking about the fire rates on your APS weapons. Wants to know if you're going to go with realistic ones or you're doing like double the realistic fire rate.
That's up for testing right now. Most of my ships use very realistic fire rates. So, for example, the Arkansas battleship has 3 rounds per minute on its guns, which is like slightly above the realistic fire rate of around 2.5. But it's always about compromise, making sure that the battles don't take forever, and also not making it look realistic, not making it look ridiculous. Having a
it's
battleship
also
crank out shells every second is like not what we want.
Okay.
it's also a point of balancing problems because even without guidance, missile type weapons are currently outclassing APS weapons in almost every field from cost to size, and so limiting the fire rates just puts even further down.
Okay.
But it is something we'll experiment with, both figuring out ways missile type weapons less powerful and being realistic rates of fire without APS too underpowered. But at the end of the day, it's not a tournament. It's more about making it visually spectacular. So we can do a lot to play with the balance.
Okay. I'm looking at this Arkansas battleship, and I know it's unfinished, but it's looking very, very good so far. I'm assuming this is the one with all the casemates and the twin uh,
Yeah,
APS guns.
that was way before they retrofitted it in real life.
It looks like
But you
you're
gotta,
trying to make some kind of cage mass here with the
Yeah,
what's
those
it
are
called?
placeholders right now.
Okay.
The truss blocks will go away, and this will be mostly made of mimics. This is just so that I get the scale more or less right.
Okay. Looking good so far.
Flip, you gotta spin those guns around and show people what they do. Horrifying.
I don't know if this is the HE frag version, but if it is, then I hope it shoots at something big.
So you guys are using tracers a bit from what it looks like. Am I correct?
Yeah, we use tracers to make the rounds look more spectacular when they fly through the air. That's
Mm-hmm.
why most of my ships also use very low velocity shells, simply because it looks more realistic to how it would look in real life, especially since our engagement ranges will be between like 1.5 and 2 kilometers. And
That sounds pretty
unfortunately,
reasonable.
this is the wrong version of the Arkansas, so it doesn't fire the tracer, it fires AP rounds.
Ooh, got a bit of a lag spike there. Sorry about that. Let's see here. So, some more questions for you, gentlemen. They want to know what the rules are like on the torpedoes.
They're a work in progress. There's currently no rule for unguided torpedoes. There will be eventually. Unguided torpedoes are easy enough to evade.
Mm-hmm.
Too much of a balance yet.
Yeah, I had to do something similar with my steaming pile as ship tournament. They don't really seem to do well if you launch them directly from the hull of a ship with a one turn,
They
but
have
if
to
you
be on
put those on
turrets.
like a turret, they are
Like
scary.
Yeah, exactly what we found out
kinetic
as well.
low angle frag do obscene amounts of damage.
Oh,
So that's an area
absolutely.
we definitely need to tone. And for sonar guided torpedoes, like I said, we're probably going to look at their top speed based on size. So large torpedo be able to effectively like a battleship, whereas medium torpedoes are versatile. Small torpedoes are useless.
Yeah, the only real use that I've found for them, in as far as underwater setting, is maybe as torpedo interceptors, and that's been about it.
Which we don't use.
Yeah, from what it sounds like, you guys are going to be having like any active defenses at all, so nothing to worry about there.
There will be active evasion. They could spot torpedoes in World War II.
Oh yeah.
Steer the ship away from.
So another question we just had pop up here in the chat. Once again, random user Mayo. He's asking, will there be realistic propulsion looking at steam and diesel stuff?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mentioned it before, but I guess I can mention it again. My submarine, for example, uses diesel engines to recharge batteries, and it can only do so when surfaced, because otherwise you'd have problem with exhaust and air intake and all that kind of thing. And so once the batteries are charged, it can submerge and then run off the batteries.
I don't know if you guys are familiar with Dell's gaming, but he's done a very, very similar setup from what you're describing there.
Yeah, I haven't followed his videos a lot recently, but I used to watch him all the time when he made protected cruisers.
Oh yeah, he's pretty much the guy that taught me how to play this game, because I spend a lot of time looking for all kinds of tutorials on YouTube. That's kind of par for the course with this game, though.
Oh yeah. We are making some guides in the World War NATO chat as well to teach people how to make realistic ships, what technology was available in World War II, and also, especially for my faction, what I expect from ships to make them realistic. So where to put the engines so that the engines like aren't crammed in the like 10% of the ships at the stern or something, so they don't get hit, but rather be in the middle center where the citadel armor would be. So teaching people what realistic ships were built like, so they can replicate it.
We got a comment here saying, yeah, Dell's Gaming also did a lot of experimenting on submarines, yeah. He's also asking if these tutorials will be on YouTube.
So far, they are mostly in the Discord in written form and also with pictures. But maybe that's a possibility once we have the channel for the World War NATO stuff in general. Then I don't see why we shouldn't add guides on there.
I feel like tutorial videos would probably really help, like get people.
Oh yeah, they're a pretty good way of generating interest. Just YouTube's a little oversaturated with them right now, if I'm going to be completely honest with you guys.
Well, there's one thing I specialize. There's not much, not many. So I build fully custom-made breadboards.
Okay.
Can do very complex. So
breadboards are quite the thing nowadays.
Oh yeah, especially with the new update.
And me, that stuff might as well be Chinese.
Yeah, I tried using them before, but I just don't have the creativity to put what is my idea into a breadboard. I'd rather use Lua programming instead. That's something that I'm a little more familiar with.
Again, might as well be Chinese to me. Oh, we got someone else here. Clint W. just popped in. Hello, Clint. We're looking at World War Neater today, a kind of a from the depths camp. I don't want to say custom campaign, though it sounded like there might be a possibility of one here in the future, but it's looking pretty interesting, honestly. So random user Maya says tutorials are there in big quantities, but barely anything about aesthetic. You make an extremely good point there, Mayo.
Yeah, and also when it comes to realistic ship loadouts and layouts, there's also barely anything of it.
Yeah, I'm one of those guys who uses the down props to try to keep things afloat because I just got sick of messing with trying to make them work realistically. And let's be honest here, if you can use a PID, you can just pile on pretty much anything you want into a hull and call it a day. So, yeah.
My ships
that can
actually
be
don't
annoying.
use any props except for like most of the ships have 4 small props just to make sure if they take damage they don't roll over immediately. But all of them, for example, the Arkansas doesn't have any yet. I haven't added it, and as you can see, it's stable more or less. Same goes for my destroyers.
Mm-hmm.
Things like PIDs and up props can be a good finishing touch, but ideally you the ship stable even at standstill. PIDs and up props, that kind of stuff, active stabilization, that's really for damage control. Head start getting burst, start getting weird drag profile like that.
So, Neo's saying if you combine these, tutorials with a bit of history, he seems to think it'll generate a lot of interest. I think he might be onto something there.
Oh, Flup would be really good at that. I
Oh,
can say
yeah.
personally, when it comes to building.
He also says PIDs can be quite addictive, and yeah, I totally gets what he means by that.
I mean, I can teach people how to make hulls without PIDs, but it means sacrificing armor.
Yeah.
Especially for destroyers. Since their hull is so narrow, you basically need to put metal at the bottom and
I
alloy
totally
at the
get what
top.
you mean there, yeah.
And all my destroyers have like 1 meter of armor. Mostly because realistically destroyers weren't armored, but also since otherwise they tip over.
Also, I believe heavy armor is not quite a thing in this setting, if I remember correctly. So
No, it isn't.
that can complicate
No.
things as well, I imagine.
It was, well, the original reason for banning it was because at the time it had like a very sci-fi texture that didn't suit the theme.
Mm-hmm.
But quite frankly, it would have been too strong for World War Neater anyway. But something I was saying about in building realistic ships and historical, to make ships that look this good, we've actually, or at least I did, Flip already, I had to learn a lot about ships, like where the air intakes for the engine are, air crew, winches, hatches, lifeboats, all these small details that really come together to be a very impressive looking ship. All involve understanding the history behind and how they work.
Yeah, I somewhat of a World War II history buff myself, and there's just so many good stories and so many things to learn about it. It's quite a large subject matter.
Oh yeah. I'm guessing
Nearly
you're
infinite
familiar with
subject matter.
Dorakinifel. Don't know if I pronounce his name correctly.
Yes, I have seen some of his work. He does some very, very good videos talking about basically any kind of ship you can think of.
Oh yeah, especially interesting. I find his longer videos going into detail about, for example, naval artillery, showing the evolution and things like that. Really help also in World War Nita to balance the game, make shells that are realistic. For example, we had one guy post a ship that could literally one-shot my Northampton class cruisers with AP sabers, and that's something that, like, for me, that's a no-go. Since realistically, no ship should be able to one-shot another, so that would probably have to be nerfed. And yeah, those are like things. Understanding what a shell could do in real life and then trying to replicate shells that do the same thing in from the depths is not very easy.
Oh no, I totally get it because trying to do conventional APHE is very, very difficult in current version, from what I understand.
Flip's
It's borderline
knowledge of
useless.
Mm-hmm.
Flepp's knowledge of World War II technology has really brought a lot of depth to World War II. So, for example, below a depth of 15 meters, World War II era contact detonators on torpedoes would have actually been triggered by the water pressure, which I didn't know, but Flepp knew that.
No,
creates
that
an
makes
interesting
total
dynamic
sense. Yeah.
where submarines have to rise to at least a depth of 15 meters to actually attack. Unfortunately, altitude fuses do not work on missiles. We just kind of mess with the local weapon controllers and turn the weapons below that depth. All these really interesting details, interesting.
I actually took a class in Nazi Germany back in college, and history was actually my minor. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of history myself.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, anyone that has an interest for history, I guess, will have a great time with World War NATO because there's already a bunch of history nerds in the channel. And although I don't take history in college, I really have a thing for looking up YouTube videos when it comes to naval history.
World War II is probably the biggest reason why I'm such a Sabaton fan, to be honest with you. So yeah,
Oh
totally get
yeah,
it.
Sabaton is amazing.
I
I
got
will
to see
say,
him live
both
in
Flepp
Dallas last year. It was pretty cool.
Oh shit, that's amazing.
we have a lot of really strong history buffs in World War NATO, and also a really surprising number of people who are majoring in engineering. So that's interesting.
I
Yeah,
think
the
that's like
engineering
the
majors, they can come up with some pretty wicked stuff.
Oh yeah. I mean, you don't have to be an engineering major to come up with some crazy stuff. But I guess if you're creative and it reflects both in being an engineering major and also in From the Depths, basically that's like your designated path that you want to take, making
It
stuff.
comes together really well for World War.
Um, I don't know if you're familiar with a Wellner, but he's an
Yeah.
engineering major, and he's probably one of the best, if not the best, builders from the depths. So yeah,
I did actually reach out to him. I didn't hear back, but I'd love to have him check the project.
I remember his ships in Mantis tournament, and
Mhm.
I was always scared of his ship beating mine. And I think it was season 2 where I participated with the Archer Super Fortress, and did actually surprisingly well until I was beaten by like a staircase with cramps.
I think kind of what's been going on there is well, a, let's be frank here. A lot of very unpopular updates happened here, and I think he just been kind of wanting to get away from the drama of that, which I totally understand. So I think that might be what's been happening with him.
That's possible. I haven't
Yep.
really looked into what's been going on in the From the Depths Discord, simply because mostly it's the same people arguing the same points, and yeah, it gets tiring after a while.
Yeah, I don't even go there anymore. So yeah, but I, it's a pretty sore topic for a lot of people on my Discord and just in the From the Depths community in general that no one seems to want to address. But yeah, we'll just leave it there because I'm sure there's a lot of opinions on it. Let's see here. Oh, iMark3 is watching, and he said one of my guests are super quiet. I think he's probably talking about you, Samson, but I think you've already tweaked your mic as best you can.
I have, yeah. Unfortunately, I'm on my phone. My headset's not working. This is the best we have for now.
Okay. Well, at least I can understand you, so that's something.
Yeah.
I think
Might
we're
have to
having a
just
bit of a
remind me to
collision
do it.
over here.
Oh,
It's starting to
shit.
lag
yeah.
things out pretty heavy. It's like to
Yeah,
the
like
northwest.
ships out.
I
We
can
could
just
probably reopen the lobby to get rid of the enemy ships
yeah,
because there's like quite a few.
I was about to suggest that. So if everyone's in a good spot, I'll just go ahead and end the match and restart it.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay, here we go. Yeah, that's starting to turn into quite a lag fest there, but anyway, I'll go ahead and fly the camera to about middle of the map and spot them for you guys.
Yeah, perfect. I think I've shown off most of my ships except for like one destroyer.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I can spawn that in as well.
Dama, did you get a chance to look at the torpedo patrol boat I put out?
Was that one of the designs that you had on the platform
Yes.
earlier? Yeah, that was actually pretty cool looking.
Right on.
You want to talk about it some while I'm flying the camera out?
No, I'm just trying to look for some builds we can showcase.
Okay.
We could probably show your. We could show your aircraft trying to take on my ships, because that's like.
Okay, we can do that.
It looks nice, even though that my ships don't do very well, but it just goes to show how much effort went into those breadboards to make the AI of the aircraft, because they totally avoid all the flak that I throw at them.
So, Flep, spawn your ships on the enemy faction and turn their guns off. I'm going to put the aircraft up on the platform real quick just to showcase them.
Okay. One thing to note about my destroyers is they have dual-purpose guns. So with ACBs, they change their ammo type. Against ships, they use high-explosive frag, and against aircraft, they switch to flak.
Random user Mayo says he's a fan of Shampfield himself. Heitzmeister says APHE is usable, but only with a lot of railgun assistance. Yeah, I've heard that as well. Mayo asks, what are your guys' opinions on coastal fortifications against ship battles?
Oh, we will have some of those as well.
Okay, good. I have to keep alt-tabbing out to see the questions, so yeah, bear with me on that, guys. So this is the torpedo boat that we were looking at earlier. Man, you guys do a lot of meta work on these.
You can actually take that torpedo boat out, put a plane.
And this plane that you got spawned in right next to it looks like one of those Devastators from Crimson Skies.
This is actually based on the Imperial Japanese Navy Shinden. In real life, it's a fighter, but at this, it's impractical to put any real weapons on it, so it just bombs. The aircraft next to it has an original, just something like that. And it is a fighter, very effective.
Yeah, that the jet plane that you had spawned in there for a little bit, it kind of reminded me of the one of the fighters from Warhammer 40k.
I do look at some Warhammer 40k builds. I've gotten a lot of comments about my things looking like they're from Warhammer, so I have started checking.
Oh yeah, Warhammer's got such a great background and everything to it. It's just a very, very rich atmosphere that they have in it. I think the platform for the that I spawned in here is a little too high. We might want to lower it a bit because it looks like it's falling apart.
Oh yeah.
Flip, I think you're on the controls for it there.
Oh, okay.
So if you can bring it down a considerable amount here, I think it'll stop falling apart on us.
It doesn't seem to do anything.
Okay, let me try then.
I get away from the controls.
Here we go. The problem with spawning in platforms in a setting like this is that the compute or the AI of it will always try to move it around to avoid colliding with other things, and that could be a problem because it usually just moves it up to a point where it just starts falling apart because it doesn't have enough power from the turbines or anything. So yeah, Just something to be aware of. Let's see here. What else do we have to talk about? Gio's joined the chat. Hello, Gio. Mayo asks, "There's some sexy planes. Are they effective too?" That's a good
They are
question.
very effective.
They are horrifically effective at the moment. We're currently working, buffing the air gun from ships.
Mm-hmm.
Fighters also are incredibly coldest fighters. 60mm guns kill any sky. The bomber. Let me actually bring in the most effective bomber.
Okay. The one over
The
here
thing
on the
currently
left that kind of reminds me of a
total.
mosquito.
All right.
Oh yeah, that's
So
true.
We're bringing in the biggest bomber we have, and it is to a realistic scale, although this is about as big as bombers get in real life in World War II.
Where's it at?
Watch
Oh, there it
this
is.
I guess I'll turn the guns on my destroyers on, and then you can see how ineffective they are at trying to hit it.
Yeah, it flies a little derpily there, so I'm sure that's a huge bonus.
Oh yeah, it pulls off maneuvers that
Yeah,
I didn't even know were possible in From the Depths. Like it goes
uses
above my
passive
ships
evasion.
and then
Oh yeah, I've seen
completely
screens
stops.
of this guy. Yeah, he looks familiar.
It uses passive evasion on all axes, so it will roll to turn, and its center of lift is above its center. It will actually strafe. Of course, the yaw is randomized a little bit, and it also gives altitude every 2.5 seconds. It'll
Okay.
alternate between around 400 to 300. Bob's
Yeah, that thing
leave.
is twitchy as hell. Holy crap.
That might be the lag.
Okay.
It does
Lag does
actually
do weird
fly
things.
smooth under deal conditions.
So, something that we probably should note that with these aircraft, a lot of the APS weapons are spin blocked, just to let you guys know. Otherwise, trying to get everything to work in such a small airframe is, well, damn near impossible.
Once you get up to 40 by 40 meters, a lot more is doable without spin clipping.
Mm-hmm.
At around 20 by 20, you do need to spin clip APS for it to be effective, and
Mm-hmm.
we have 2 aircraft at 11 by 11. Nothing would work without spin clipping.
Oh yeah, totally. So on the propellers for your aircraft here, how'd you make them look like that? What kind of
Those are mimics.
Yeah, but
Do you mean
mimics
the
of what? What
propeller?
shape did you grab to do that with?
So there's a couple different things going on here. The propeller blades themselves are omni mantlet. I believe it's 3 meter.
Really?
Stretched out ski.
I would have never guessed.
That's how the blades are. And this is a very historical fiction aircraft.
I guess I can
propellers-
bring in my aircraft as well, which appears to be completely broken for whatever reason. Like the cockpit is missing, but otherwise, yeah.
The propellers are actually on swash plates to control their angle of attack.
I know this is
lower-
something you don't see a whole lot. An even number blocked aircraft.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I only have like maybe 1 or 2 of those. I know there's probably going to be some people out there where it could have effect on their sensibilities because it drives their OCD absolutely batshit crazy.
Nah. It's a mess to build it because you always have to think in even numbers, and that's something you're absolutely not used to in From the Depths. So it creates for some very derpy moments where you forgot the mirror line.
Mr. Crash is asking, do you have any aircraft carriers, or do you have any that are planned?
So the only aircraft carrier we have at the moment was actually constructed by Fleet Admiral Gaming, not for World War II, but they did give us their permission to use it.
Oh, that's great.
Which is pretty cool. It's a beautiful aircraft.
So I'm guessing
So
that you're going to have aircraft actually launching from this carrier?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
And we're also planning on having them return to the carrier for refueling, rearming, and repairs.
Yeah. So carriers will play a really important role in that aircraft basically, they're not going to work very well or for very long without the support of a dedicated carrier.
Hmm.
And that might help balance out how powerful they are at the moment.
Also, you can't really bring in planes unless you have carriers or anything
Yeah.
that can hold planes. The only exception will probably be an airbase if we ever do land-based things.
Which we do hope to do.
Yeah, the
But right
volume
now we are prepping.
that you guys are working, it looks like it could be a little hard to hide all the resource storage for those. So I totally get why you'd probably need something like nearby airfields or aircraft carriers.
Well, it's actually incredibly easy to make these fight for extended periods,
Oh, okay.
but we plan on limiting their capacity for balancing purposes and realism.
Okay. Do you have anything else cool that you guys like to take a few minutes to show off?
I think I've shown all the designs I have.
Okay.
Tiny
Samson,
submarine can show.
submarine. Is it the that Gatto one that was spawned in a little bit ago? Oh, okay. This is a different one.
That was my submarine.
If you go to the map and find the Caltrop, that's my submarine.
If I could find her. Oh, okay. I think I found it.
So that tiny little submarine,
Oh yeah, that looks great.
maybe not long, actually carries a large torpedo. The whole submarine is built around the torpedo.
Front of it looks great.
Thank you. I based it on a more modern personal submarine, which have lights and
So it's a midget sub.
yeah, with a giant.
A torpedo holding a torpedo.
Yep. Very, very nice. I like the
don't know
midget
if-
subs too.
I'm a big fan of very small, specialized craft. So that's primarily what my side would be featuring. Flex more of a big ships, big guns.
Stan B, welcome to the stream here. Hope you've been enjoying it so far.
Something you can see now as well is one of my destroyers decided to go for an attack run against the submarine. So it will probably, if it manages to catch up with all the damage it has taken already, then it will probably drop some depth charges as well.
So are you guys going to have like any really hard limits on the larger ships that you plan on bringing in, just for optimization's sake?
So far we haven't had any issues with that.
That's good.
So we don't have a limit for how big you can go, as long as you keep it somewhat feasible.
It will probably be to realistic proportions. Like we said before, the plan A150 successor motto.
Yeah, something like that probably be like, what, about 300 meters, some shit like that?
Not quite,
The
but
other thing
yeah.
is that
You could bring a
when we
Montana,
do
for
these-
example.
when we do these encounters, we're going to have a budget for each side. Basically, how much material craft they can field. And so really, really big super battleships probably aren't going to see too terribly often. Maybe in some special encounters, but for the budget, it would cruisers and below.
Ooh, that was a nasty torpedo hit back there.
Oh yeah. The thing we have to try to balance is also that destroyers don't really work against submarines. They are too slow to catch up and die too fast. So right now, most ASW will be carried out by planes.
Which aircraft are extremely effective at submarine warfare.
Mm-hmm.
Can't be hit by torpedoes and can launch depth charges far enough.
I believe Heitzmeister, he had a helicopter that was developed specifically to deal with this. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but he used a harpoon so he can kind of hang a one of those sonar buoys off of it and kind of drag it around with him. It's actually pretty cool. I don't know if that's something you might be interested in, but I think it might be worth looking into.
Dragging a sonar buoy from an aircraft?
Yeah.
So I tested that, and it creates a lot of drag, which really interferes with high-speed aircraft.
Yeah, but if it's hanging underneath a helicopter, I think it'd be all right.
But the thing about from the depths, at the default setting of 0-point automatic detection, that's more than enough accuracy to get a magnetic depth charge effective range of a submarine. So you could actually use absolutely no detection or tracking equipment on an ASW aircraft, still hit your target every single time.
Okay.
But I do put sonar, just drop sonar buoy from those aircraft.
Okay. Another question here from Mayo. He's asking, are there limits on detection systems? Like only visual, no sonar and radar on certain ships?
Yeah, we have quite a bit because, for example, the laser rangefinder, there were no laser rangefinder.
Yeah, that wasn't a thing. Gotcha.
So that's banned. And some others, I think infrared is banned as well.
Yeah.
So just sticking with period-specific forms of detection is what I'm getting from you guys. Okay.
Yeah.
We don't have restrictions on what type of detection equipment you can use based on the class. So that's open. So anything can use sonar.
Okay.
But it is period specific, and there was actually infrared in World War II. They used it on tanks, but it was very rudimentary. It was towards the end of the war, and it wasn't even remotely what you see from the depths. What we have from the way beyond what was possible in World War II. So we don't use infrared.
Okay. And it looks like you've joined Spanish Inquisition's custom campaign hub as well. It looks like.
That's right. They actually invited us.
Oh, that's great.
I mentioned that we're not a custom campaign, but he was like, close enough.
Yeah, I think a lot of people mistake yours for a custom campaign. I believe I did myself, to be honest.
I think once we start getting the encounter on YouTube, people will start to understand what it's about because they can see what it's about.
Yeah. Something that comes close to it is like Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts, where you have like the campaign missions where you build a ship to defeat a certain set of enemies. It's something similar to that, with the addition that we have like a map where progress is tracked, so areas captured will stay in that faction. And it will probably also change the economy of the faction.
Yeah. So to kind of go into how one of the ways that we're exploring balancing it is that as one faction expands its territory, it has a larger border to field forces to, and so its forces become diluted, whereas another faction gets pushed back and their forces become more concentrated. We're hoping that will keep it in flux, a constant push and pull.
For example, my faction will probably outnumber Samson's faction simply because my ships are a lot weaker. Right now, in a 1v1, his frigate can actually defeat my cruiser, simply because his frigate has like cruiser armor and also very good guns compared to my restricted high explosive guns.
Alright, so just to let you guys know who are following along here, I went and stuck a link to the World War Neater Discord into a chat here for you guys if you want to go and check it out. I also have it in the description of the video, so if you want to go check it out later, you can do so. But I highly recommend it. These guys are very, very good builders, and they have some amazing designs that you might want to check out. They're always posting screenshots of things, so yeah, give it a try.
If you don't mind, I just sent you a link to our workshop collection.
Oh yeah, I'll be glad to post that as well. Let me just grab that from you.
Play with the craft themselves. see everything that we have 100% finished.
Okay, I'll drop it in chat as well here.
Thanks.
And that's a link to their Steam community page if you guys want to have a look at that.
The workshop.
Right.
So those are the blueprints for the build.
Let's see. Put that into the description here while I'm at it. There we go. All right. So, let's see here. Let me just check chat. It looks like we got caught up on all the questions here. Do you guys have anything else that you would like to add about this project of yours, or you think we're at a good wrapping up point, or is there anything else that we'd like to cover?
I think for my part, it's mostly everything that I want to cover. We covered it.
Okay. Samson, how about you?
I would just like to reiterate that we are looking for dedicated builders and other team members to help grow the project. So anyone out there that's really interested in this, that really sparks something, please join the Discord, get involved, because we've been working on this for about 9-10 months. We are approaching the point where we can start doing, but we do really need variety more builders.
Oh yeah, no doubt. It looks like you
Something
guys
else we could mention is you don't need to be detailing the ships as much as we do. And also, if you're like super good at building hulls, we could always use more ship hulls, because that's something that's holding us back right now.
Okay.
It's just the amount of hulls that we can like load out and anything like that.
All right.
Yeah, and I just want to put out there that I'm actually very interested in doing collaborative projects. So if someone has something with good bone, portion, layout, I'm happy to detail it, tune it up.
I think I sent you guys a couple of blueprints already.
Oh yeah, I did take a look at your variety of aircraft.
How'd you like the bomber?
Not quite World War Neater style, but very efficient.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure if it was what you guys were looking for. I felt that it is pretty close to the World War II era, but no, I get it. You guys are going for a certain aesthetic. Yeah, that's totally fine. But man, is that thing scary when it just drops those big old clouds of bombs.
So I do a lot of over-engineering, and something you may notice that these bombs are dropped very long distance away. They actually glide hundreds of meters without
Oh yeah,
activating
APN guidance. Yeah, it's
so they're just about dead on top of the target. They drop straight down, obliterate turrets, detection equipment.
That's amazing. I might have to steal a couple of these ideas. Okay. Is there anything else that we'd like to discuss, or you guys think we're at a good wrapping up point?
I think we're good to wrap it up. How about you, Flip?
Yeah, I think so too.
All right.
All right, guys. Well, this has been Damadog82 along with... oh, got one question that just popped in here at the last moment.
Sure.
Invictus is asking if you guys are looking for PT boats. And he's also got a...
If you mean anything that can transport material, that will be very perfect, because that would give us everything we need for our first encounter.
Yeah, join the Discord, post some screenshots. Let's take a look at it.
Okay. So, yeah, I guess we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. This has been Damadog82 along with Samson and Flep talking about their World War Neater campaign. I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. So have yourselves a hell of a day, and keep your hammer high. Later, guys. All right.